I'm Greg Tepper. That's Greg Powers. And this is This Week
in Recruiting.
It's This Week in Recruiting with Greg Powers of Next Level Athlete. Follow him on Twitter at GPowerScout. Follow Next Level Athlete on Twitter at Next Level D1. This, of course, brought to you by our good friends, our delicious friends. Our friends are not delicious, but they put together great work at Chicken Express.
Also sell catfish. If you didn't know, catfish is very tasty there.
Ooh.
They do sell catfish.
You know what? That's one of those things I've seen on the menu, but I'm just so laser focused on the chicken.
He
that,
says
like,
spicy tenders.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I got tunnel vision on the spicy tenders. Might be catfish week. It's Greg Powers and Next Level Athlete. A lot to get to in the recruiting world around the state. We are going to start right away with our prospect on the rise. And our prospect on the rise, we're going to the private school ranks at Fort Worth All Saints. Fort Worth All Saints has an athlete named Montaye Dawson who they pulled. I guess you would call it a bit of an upset. Azle was pretty highly thought of. They beat him 70-50. And a big reason why was Montaye Dawson, 359 yards and 5 touchdowns. This is a guy who is committed to SMU. He's getting some. He picked SMU over some big time Power 5 offers. Right now, if that holds to form, seems like SMU's getting a good one.
Oh, no doubt. And newsflash for all the TAP schools out there: All Saints is back. I mean, come on now. James Brockermeyer, Tommy Brockermeyer. Is back off of an injury, so they have it up front to really dominate in the trenches, and they were able to clear huge lanes for Montaye Dawson in week 1. Did that 359 yards. I believe it was on 17 carries. He scored 5 TDs. So he's one of those guys who's dangerous every time he touches the football, and I think he's in for a monster year this year. Of course, week 1 is a good indication of that when you put up that stat line. We've had him rated as an athlete, from day one. He was a guy that I've always felt like it's probably going to be more in that slot back style role at SMU where he could split out wide, catch the football, and do some different things. But looking at him on film and what he's done this first week of the 2020 season, I think a case can be made that he could be a true running back once he arrives and starts to fit in with that Mustangs offense. He's a guy who can fit in a number of different roles, but don't discount his ability as a true running back out of the backfield because he gets it done.
He is a dynamic playmaker regardless of where you line him up on the field. Let's move on to our commit of the week. Pulling the trigger this week, a big-time prospect, the number 1 tight end in the state of Texas in the class of 2021, according to Dave Campbell's Texas Football. He is Argyle tight end Jasper Lott, and he is going to stay pretty local, heading to TCU to play for the Horned Frogs. And this is a big get for them because they were fending off offers from Texas Tech, Ole Miss, Arkansas, but Jasper Lott decided to stay home. And imagine that TCU is going to find some interesting ways to involve Mr. Lott.
Well, I think the jury could still be out, too, on what he eventually develops into. I love him as the number 1 rated tight end in the state this year because he's one of those guys who could be a true inline tight end. He's a tremendous blocker. He's like an extra offensive lineman on what is probably the best offensive front in 4A. And then you throw Jasper Lott into the mix, and you have another guy who really, truly, at the high school level is like having a third offensive tackle in the field at times. So he can really clear some lanes. He's a tremendous blocker. He's a well-rounded tight end on the offensive side of the ball, but he's 6'5", 255 pounds now, and he's a great football player. So if in the future, TCU wanted to take a look at him on the defensive front, I think he could easily make that transition. So I think this is a big pickup, not only to secure the number 1 tight end in the state of Texas in the 2021 cycle, but as you project towards the future, the versatility there is something that's also key because, Gary Patterson has a knack for developing some tremendous defensive linemen. So if that's in the cards for Jasper Lott, don't be disappointed if you're a huge offensive fan because this dude can do it on the defensive side of the football as well.
This ticks a lot of boxes for a TCU commit in the sense that it's a small school guy, local guy, versatile guy, and a big time prospect as well. So it ticks a lot of boxes for a typical TCU commit. We're talking with Greg Powers on Next Level Athlete here on Texas Football Today. Get involved with the conversation and hashtag TF Today. Let's go to our underclassman of the week. Member Newton They've got an outstanding running back in the class of 2022, playing his junior year right now, named Gatson. And Newton's been in kind of stuck in the mud a little bit early in the season, but they have roared to life a monstrous performance from Gatson in their win over Kuntz. 301 yards and 4 touchdowns. He's up for Mr. Texas Football Player of the Week. This is the guy that you saw at the Next Level Athlete Top 100 Showcase in Houston way back in the before times, and I know you came away impressed.
Well, he's a bruiser. 5'10", 210 pounds. He's got 3 offers now, TCU, Houston, Iowa State. But that's just going to be the tip of the iceberg. And I wanted to nod my cap to Newton for a bounce back this week and make sure that we recognize Gatson's performance, because they're a team that has dealt with a lot of adversity to start their season. The hurricane came through there, did a lot of damage, kind of set them back, but they didn't really hit the pause button. They picked up games and tried to keep things going. The season didn't start off the way that they had wanted. That they had a few losses, and now they're back in the win column, which I think is huge, not only for the Newton football team, but for the Newton community. That community is around there is used to winning football games. They're used to being able to go out on Friday nights and seeing their team dominate. And I think this is the first indication now that they've had some setbacks early in the year, that things are back on track. And I think the Eagles will be right back where we expect them to be by the time the year ends. And a big reason is because of Gatson. He's got 3 offers now, but he'll have 12 probably by the time we talk about him next, or the next time we have an opportunity to profile him at DCTF. As you can see him here going through the next level athlete drills. He catches the football really naturally for a big running back. He transitions in and out of his breaks really smoothly. So he's a guy who could dominate at the 4A level.
And I remember seeing him at the camp, and what I was impressed about is anytime he did slip or fall, he would get right back up and never look like he skipped a beat. The kid doesn't quit, and I remember watching that at that camp and thinking that was very impressive.
Yeah, a guy to keep an eye on there in Gatson, the running back there from Newton, the class of 2022. He's got offers from a few different places, including TCU, Houston, and Iowa State. Let's finish it off with our Recruit of the Week. And our Recruit of the Week is Denton Ryan defensive end Tavion Sanders. Although calling him defensive end is a disservice. And
fair point.
What a show he put on in their opener against Arlington Martin. He's the number 3 prospect in the state according to Dave Campbell's Texas Football right now. What he did last week, the Texas commit, 7 catches, 122 yards, and 2 touchdowns, a 69-yard interception return for a touchdown that he caught one-handed, and then 6 tackles and a tackle for loss. He was everywhere. He was a monster, and I know that the guys in front of them at the on the DCTF Hot 100 are really, really impressive. Tommy Brockermeyer, our number 1 prospect in the state. I mean, Tavion Sanders got to be knocking on that door, though.
I agree 100%, and I bumped him up 10 pounds for the sake of this article because we had him listed at 6'4", 230. I put 240, but I would love to get a true measurement right now on Tavion Sanders. This dude looked huge in that game versus Arlington Martin in AT&T Stadium, and he moves extremely well for a big man. I mean, we all got to see this on display, and everybody saw all the social media and all the hits that people were talking about Tavion Sanders, and all the accolades that he's getting are just accolades because he's an absolute freak. I think he's a guy who, as you mentioned, he's right there. We've got 4 out of the 5 5-star names right now at DCTF. We will name a 5th one at some point in the near future, but Tommy Brockermeyer and Donovan Jackson are number 1 and number 2 on the offensive front. And then you have Tavion Sanders, who we list as a defensive end, but is also one of the top wide receivers at the 5A level in the state of Texas. So he's a freak show. Both sides of the football, this guy's probably going to be in the MVP talk by the time it's all said and done. What did they bump up to 6? I guess they bumped up to 6A. Is that true, Tepper?
No, they're 581. They're the number 1 team in 581.
581. I guess just seeing them play Arlington Martin makes you think 6A, but they abused the 6A team, in Arlington Martin at AT&T Stadium, and a huge part of that was Tavion Sanders' play. He's going to be a name that you hear, I think, quite often as the 2020 season unwinds itself.
Yeah,
and of
one
course,
of the things that
commit to the Texas Longhorns.
When I was watching this game on Friday at AT&T Stadium, we are used to seeing guys who it's like, oh wow, he's the best player on the field. Like he's just a mismatch for everybody. But we're used to seeing that at like the 3A level. Like, to do that at the 5A level against a 6A Division
team.
I team
Yeah.
is just like my jaw was on the floor with some of the things he was doing.
Yeah, no doubt, man. And that 69-yard interception return, he was running away from wide receivers and offensive skill players like they weren't even on the field. I mean, you saw him separate and take it to the distance. I know that he had some space there, but his speed was apparent on that interception return. And just think about him chasing down your quarterback. I mean, if he ends up sticking at defensive end, I know he could play tight end, do a number of different things on the offensive side of the ball. I love him as a defensive end because of that pass rushing ability. It's rare to find, but just it's a quarterback's nightmare. When you see him coming out of the corner of your eye, there's probably not much that you can do. And it's ironic that they were playing Arlington Martin, because I think a good comparison for him in that regard could be Myles Garrett, who's, chasing down these quarterbacks in the NFL for the Cleveland Browns.
He's Greg Powers of Next Level Athlete. Follow him on Twitter at GPowersScout. Follow Next Level Athlete on Twitter at NextLevelD1, and see his fine work at TexasFootball.com/recruiting. Powers, appreciate your time, my friend. We will do this again next week.